Battleline Podcast. This episode, we're not doing our usual intro and outro because we just don't have time. Chris is limited on time, and we have a lot of things to talk about. I mean, I did want to say that the podcast that you did with Clint Emerson, Survive This Podcast. I mean, we don't have the time to really go into it, but it was excellent. He does a great job.
Yes.
You know, when I always think of podcasts, it's kind of a lot of them are the same. I love what we do. I don't know if we're necessarily reinventing the wheel, but he kind of is in terms of this survivability scenario. It's like a choose your own adventure book, and I've never heard anyone do it before Clint.
It is. It's a scenario based podcast, and it's excellent because it's fun. You're putting yourself in the moment, but it reminds me of reading those adventure books as a kid. Like, hey, choose this, turn to page 56. Hey, you want to fight the dragon, then turn to page 62. And it was, but he's got an excellent production team with this as well. And so, you know, like our podcast, I'd say with, you know, the production, the people behind the podcast really are the ones that make it great. I mean, you have to have a person that, and I think we have a good rapport with each other. Clint is an excellent interviewer, and he's just a great guy. And it comes across that way. But you got to give kudos to his production team, too. They were on there as well. They were tremendous as well. I mean, and they were spot on, got everything. But they just made, you know, honestly, I feel comfortable talking to anybody. But they did. They made it feel comfortable, made it feel fun. But it was neat. And it was neat to be able to do it. Hey, what are you going to do, left or right? And making those calls if something happens in your life, I think is tremendous. It's a great teaching tool. I think you could do classes on that. And I actually do some classes like that when I'm doing my Battleline courses where it's say right or left, what are you going to do? And, if anybody wants to be ready, situationally aware of things going on around them, listen to the podcast. It gets you some ideas, thinking outside the box. And you're getting it from guys that are trained and have lived by thinking outside the box. And I think that's why the podcast was fun for me, because like, man, I remember a lot of those things you think about when you walk in a room and you look around and go, okay, what do I have at my disposal if something happens? It's not paranoia. I keep talking, it's not paranoia. It's just being ready. Like what we talked about with John, with him having that list and him sitting in that car in Mexico and him looking around going,
which we're going to get into.
Which,
for the audience.
Yeah, sorry, guy, I'm all over the place. But anyway, it's a fun thing to listen to as well. And if you're on it, guys, if Clint asks you to be on it, some of my peers go on it. It's fun. You know, he's not trying to get you. It's not like, hey, I'm the alpha male. I'm cooler than you because it's a fun podcast. And I tell you, it's going to help people when they listen to it that aren't in the line of work that we used to be in, or some that are currently in. So go on Clint's podcast. And if you don't listen to it, and again, Clint, nice job. His production team, excellent job. I had a blast on it. And thanks for saying it came across well, because I still don't listen to anything that I'm ever on, because I think I sound like David Beckham. But
I have to, man. I mean, you can't, everybody who says, oh, I hate the sound of my own voice. I wouldn't be able to do this if I hated the sound of my own voice. I'm fine.
Well, you have a cool voice, dude. You have the Quiet Storm voice. I told you. You've got the Casey Kasem, Barry White mixture. You've got that voice going on, man.
So as Chris just kind of hinted at, you know, you guys already see the title. We have John Jackson coming on, who was a longtime friend of Drew Dwyer. But before we get into that, which we just recorded and it went great, we have a new sponsor on board, which we're really excited to have. And you've been doing stuff with them for a while, and that's Pamax Tactical. Yeah,
since Florida, they came in and they showed me what they had, their Lion device, and we'll get into what that is. That's a low-impact ordnance, non-lethal device that it's utilized. We can use it for training, or you can utilize it for, I implore military law enforcement to check it out because it replaces what we used to use as a flashbang, which the flashbang that we use, it overcomes people's senses. It basically resets whatever you're doing, so it blows up. And this is what flashbangs are used for primarily back in the days. What we used them for is when we were going into rooms and clearing rooms, you throw it in there. The lights and sounds would overstimulate people's senses. So you have that extra split 2 seconds to get in the room and do what you need to do before they were able to recover those senses. But flashbangs, honestly, that's like holding a stick of dynamite in your hand. It's very dangerous. And even for training scenarios, which when I do training scenarios, especially at Blackwater at the time, we use flashbangs to get people to move, to overwhelm their senses. But they are inherently dangerous because essentially just holding a smaller stick of dynamite in your hand, where this thing, the Lion device, it's non-lethal. It's tremendous because there isn't that threat of making a mistake, and guys have, where they have held a flashbang in their hands and didn't let it go, and it injured them. This thing isn't. And you can drop it. I know I've seen, you can go on their website and look at videos, drop the thing and it doesn't go off. But it's something that you have more control of in an environment that you do need that control, because training with firearms or explosives or so forth is dangerous. And the safer you can make it in training, the better the training is going to be. And yeah, I tell you what, I was impressed when I saw it, the way, first of all, how it's built, that it's reusable. That's going to save you money, especially you guys, law enforcement, military guys, being able to reuse something over and over and over again is going to save you money. But just the safety issue, because I've had experiences with other explosive devices that you utilize for training where I've seen guys make mistakes and they've lost fingers, or they've had severe injuries on their hands or burns. And this minimizes all of that. And that's why we use it at Battleline Tactical for our training. We actually have a partnership with them, and we will use it for our vehicle defense training. And also this November, when we go to Defender Outdoors, we'll use it for our scenario-based training, where we do room clearing, where we do room-based scenarios. So yeah, it's tremendous. And the group there, again, integrity, like all of our sponsors that we have, tremendous integrity, tremendous customer service, and they believe in their product, which makes the product well. And because they have integrity, it also makes the product well. And it makes Absolutely. It better than anything else. So yeah, but I know Ian's going to read the specs on it, so you guys get to know what it is. But check them out, guys. Look at their YouTube videos. And actually, we've been using it since Florida in February. Battleline has, and Jeremy Mitchell, who is one of my Battleline instructors, is actually a certified instructor to teach the Lion device to anybody that comes to our classes. So definitely check these guys out. They're tremendous. They're a breakthrough in the industry. Brand new guys. They're innovative. They're going to take over everything that we utilized flashbangs for. And I don't want to call it a flashbang because it's not, but they're going to take that realm over. But then also home defense, having it in your home, it's not a bad idea, to have that sensory overload to give you that split second to get out of the house if you need to. So you don't have to shoot somebody. So you don't have to kill somebody. You don't have to rely on guns. You can throw that at your attacker, somebody breaking in the house, it blows up. I guarantee you, it's going to scare the living crap out of them, and you're going to be able to get the hell out of the house or do what you need to do to separate and get yourself out of danger.
Yeah, 100%. So check them out, guys. Pamax Tactical. They're a law enforcement owned and operated company. And that device, which Chris was talking about, is the Lion device, low impact ordnance, non-lethal device, reusable, as you just heard us talk about, impact actuated blank fire device designed for simulation sports and training, not a flashbang. The device accepts 3 cartridges, any 209 primer, 9mm pack blanks, and B12 mini blanks. The V2 base is available for law enforcement officers and military, and it accepts proprietary B12 2-inch blanks to replace modern use of flashbangs. It's safer, reliable, and cost-effective. No paperwork necessary, and proudly made in the USA. So go to pmtactical.com, use the promo code Tonto, and you're going to get 10% off all your purchases. Yeah. And as always, guys, that's TANTO. I know a lot of people get the spelling on that wrong.
Hey, for all my peer instructors out there, all my peers, guys, definitely check out the Lion device for your training needs. If you guys do any sort of scenario-based training, you definitely need that Lion device. It's something that will help you increase some of the levels that you need to have people at when they train, especially scenario-based training. You want to be able to get their heart rates up. You want to be able to get their stress up. And what better way to do that but an explosion here or there? But if you're going to have an explosion, you also want to make sure that is a non-lethal, safe explosion that goes off that's not going to cause any injuries. Guys, if you're an instructor out there that does scenario-based training, you got to check out the Lion devices and get with get with the website there that pmtactical.com. That's pmtactical.com, guys. Check them out for all my instructors out there. Make it happen.
And in the realm of firearms and stuff that you guys use with Battleline Tactical as well, of course, every show is sponsored by Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. So go to fortscottmunitions.com, click on the dealer locator, and you're going to find a store right by you. I know, like by me, it's South Shore Sportsman in Merrick. So being I'm on Long Island and, there's not a ton of gun stores here, that lets you know that you probably will find something within a 10 to 20 mile radius.
And they're catching up on their ammo. 300 Blackout was definitely at a low for a time. They're starting to catch it back up on the 300 Blackout and of course the 9mm. So guys, check them out. I'm very lucky because I'm really close to them now, where I live in Kansas, but find a store. They're still making sure the stores are stocked, but guys, try it. If you haven't tried their ammo, you're going to use it. You're not going to go back to anything else. Home Defense and Hunters, best ammo out there on the market. Tremendous ammo, tremendous company, and it's the reason why Battleline Tactical has been with Fort Scott Munitions since their inception. 3-4 years ago. We're not going to this.
And the shirts, awesome quality. Get the Tactus Squad shirt, and you can get 15% off any of that stuff when you use our promo code BATTLELINE at fortscottmunitions.com, FORTSCOTTMUNITIONS.com. Link is in the description for this episode. But use the promo code BATTLELINE, and you'll get 15% off all of that merch. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on. Battleline Podcast. Very special guest today, John Jackson. And should I say John Jackson III or just John Jackson?
Oh, you can just call me John Jackson. That's fine.
So this is the first time either of us have talked to John. And the reason this all happened basically is because, 2 years ago, just recently, our great friend of all three of ours, Drew Dwyer, passed away. For those who don't know, Marine, CIA. And a lot of people, I think, know Drew's background from his writings or from podcasts he did. Some people who listen to this show now don't know Drew, and I think they want to know more about Drew. And we get great feedback when I post these things remembering him. And then I saw John's comment where John said, Drew literally saved my life. Yeah. And I was like, I have to hear that story. So it's just great to have you on, man.
Sure. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, no, thanks, brother. We appreciate you coming on and hope we can, take over the podcast here, and because I'd like to hear your story with Drew, because I knew Drew very well.
Sure.
Him and I on GRS, and then after, I got to know him even better, to be honest with you, after the agency, because he was one of the guys that in this world of shit, which is public media, public figure, and all that other shit that comes with the stuff that took place after, once the book came out and the movie came out. He was one of the, a handful of people I could probably count on one hand that would still stay genuine, that stayed.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
That did, but still was, and I could tell was still battling his own inner demons, but didn't ever let that affect his relationship with people. He was still good to people,
Right.
And you don't,
absolutely.
Man, you don't find that in this public figure, social media, Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, world, when people are just having good days. And he was able to maintain that on even his bad days. So, yeah, I want to hear how he helped you, brother, and your relationship with him. And I think
Sure.
the listeners would like to hear that as well. But we got to wait for Ian to give us the go ahead. Say, okay, start talking. We can talk about it now.
No, we're recording. We're good. I'm always paranoid now. Like my mic sounds good because we were having technical.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. No, we're all good to go. I mean, I will tell the audience, just for some background. John let me know, not only a longtime friend of Drew, but his best man during his wedding in Italy. You guys played minor league football together. And now you're currently a wide receiver coach at Stonebridge High School in Ashburn, Virginia, who were the state champions with you as coach. And I'm looking forward to getting into all of it. I didn't even know that Drew played minor league football, to be honest.
Yeah, that's where I met Drew. 2003. We had a little meeting at a restaurant, and in walks this guy wearing this police uniform and kind of gung ho. And there were a couple of guys like that walked in. He was just fresh out of work and walked in, and we immediately took to each other and introduced ourselves to each other, and we were fast friends. Played on the same side of defense. He had my back over the top. He was a safety. I was a cornerback, and he always had my back. Even after we stopped playing football, he was always there for me after that. So.
Yeah,
great guy.
That's another one reasons Drew and I had a good relationship, because I played football through college as well and so it was something also we could talk about where,
Sure.
Surprisingly, you would think in the special operations community, you have a lot of athletic guys that have played. That's not the truth. You find probably, I would say 15-20% of the guys that have in the special operations community that actually played sports up through even not just high school level, and and they get smaller in the intercollegiate level.
Sure.
So
Sure.
He was an athlete. I want to know some of your best memories, because I love football and my dad coached throughout my childhood. I grew up on the football field.
Sure.
Some of your best memories with Drew playing, maybe some of the greatest, because being a defensive back, I was a free safety. My brother was a cornerback. And that's when we could hit people. We weren't targeting their heads, but you could clothesline them and just lay them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you guys have any of those kind of hits where you guys came together and just nailed guys, and then you high five each other at the end of the
So absolutely, we were an expansion team, so we had a lot of guys that had maybe come from other teams or hadn't played before together. So, we had that struggle in the beginning. However, when Drew and I played on the same side, as I said, and, I'd kind of turn around, give him a look, give him a nod when we knew we had a good receiver coming our way.
Yeah.
If something happened and he slipped by me or whatever the case may be, there were a couple times where there were some high-low impacts, that turned some guys end over end, but we really had a great rapport. On the field and off the field. We had some away games where, some of the younger guys would go into some drinking establishments and get in a little trouble.
Yeah.
So, we had to go in there and kind of rescue those guys out of there and get them straight. So
I don't think people realize, and that was a good prepping ground. I think Drew and I would talk about this. Sports and athletics was a good baseline to go in the special operations community. If people don't know, Drew was with Force Recon. He was, which is now MARSOC, which are the Raiders. They've changed their name, but they are part of the special operations community. And having that baseline of teamwork, like you talked about, just giving each other an eye, look at each other and say, okay, don't need to say a word. Just, you got it. Okay, I know what each other's going to do. Brother, that applied so much and gave me, I believed, an advantage once I started clearing rooms and doing assaults and doing small unit tactics, because that's essentially what what you're doing with your teammates on a football field. It's small unit tactics, and it gets to a level that's extremely, it can be extremely dynamic, and it can be extremely vicious to the point of, before you're not crossing that line of killing somebody. And I'm not,
Sure.
there is a complete difference, but
Sure.
you do have that teamwork where you are, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially when you're DBs and you got a shit talking receiver out there. Cause I was a shit talking receiver. I went to college and I played receiver. I was one of those other sides that you're like, okay, all right, I got this guy. All right, he's coming your way. And I remember there was a DB, a corner and a free safety that I played against where I was doing my talking and the DB let me go on purpose so the free safety could come up and he clotheslined the shit out of me, and my feet are up in the air. But that's the beauty of athletics. That's why I always tell you, young guys out there, young people that want to join the military, want to go to special operations, play athletics, man. Especially football and basketball. Play those things because you are developing your situational awareness, but you're also developing your teamwork. And it sounds like you guys did it. I mean, you're still doing it, obviously, at the high school level.
Yeah, we did have one game when we played minor league football together. I actually played against my cousin who had a team that was close in the area, who was pretty irate that I was not playing for his team. So Drew and I had to make a little pact that come hell or high water, we were not going to get scored on by this one particular team. And my cousin actually moved out to wide receiver. He was a short, squatty running back. Moved out to wide receiver. We really got into it going down the field. I ended up intercepting the ball. Tossed it to Drew afterwards. Drew threw it back, and my cousin kind of hit him in the head. So it was just a great day. It was a great day.
It's good stuff, man. Go ahead.
So what was Drew's? I guess you'd say football career, but minor league football, was that after the Marine Corps and like in between contracting?
Yeah, it was. He was still a SPO at that point, so he had a little free time to get with us and work out playing football. So yeah, that's what he was able to do in his free time.
That's just Drew, man, and being a SPO. But then he moved on and became a staff guy. Just so people are clear out there, Drew didn't contract. Drew was an actual staff team leader for GRS, and again, we'll get into that in a bit, but that having a GRS team leader that actually had experience within the special operations community, and then also having Drew just being Drew was something that you didn't see very often in the GRS community, because and you guys will love this. I know all you guys that follow the government and know how shady the government is. To be a team leader on the staff side with CIA, you don't have to meet the same requirements as a contractor. You don't have to have any special operations experience or any even military experience to be a team leader of guys that have 6, 7, 8 years of special operations experience. But that's the government for you. But Drew did, and he was one of the very few, which made him special on the GRS side of the house too. But again, we can get into that here in a bit. But it's just amazing what Drew did, and then doing SPO work and then doing minor league football in his spare time. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty good stuff.
It was pretty good stuff. Yeah, we actually had another guy that won't mention his name. He's still active, but he is another team leader, and he was our coach. He was one of our coaches on defense. So yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Ian. I mean, I cut you off, bro. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, it's not surprising to me that, at least, in my experience, that you connected with Drew right away, because it was the same thing with me. I mean, most of my best friends in life are people I went way back to high school with, and I still talk to regularly. Many of them actually elementary school. And Drew was like the last person I could say I've met that was like later on in life and was truly one of my best friends. And for me, what it was, and I've wrote it in posts before, is just how genuine he was. He was
Absolutely.
not the type of guy who, I said it on the last show, but when people die, unfortunately, and a lot of people will say everyone loved him, there's no one who had a bad word to say about him. I actually wouldn't put Drew in that category, because I think the people who really liked him. But if he didn't get along with you, and there were people I worked with that he was just like, I don't like this guy, he let you know. There was no phony about him, and I liked that.
Absolutely. There were friends that I had that he met along the way. He's like, yeah, I don't know about that guy. I don't really trust that guy. So 9 times out of 10, he was correct. So yeah, he would definitely shoot from his hip. He'd tell it the way it was.
Tell me, before the football career or even during it, how did it become where your friendship blossomed and then you became your best man, and walk us through that if you could, your time as succinct but as detailed as possible.
Sure.
Talking about that relationship, and then the best man, and then also I got to know what happened at the bachelor party and the wedding. At least much.
Sure. So after I met Drew and we started playing ball together, I actually took an early exit a few years later. Had a career-ending injury, so I needed to step away. Had a pretty bad leg break.
Wow. Yeah.
So I got that taken care of, and decided at that point I was ready to hang up my cleats. But we had always, weekends we were together hanging out. Even after that, doing all sorts of things, and he would always make the joke to me that he goes, when I get married, you're going to be my best man. And this was early on. And I was like, man, well, right now you're single. So you've got a long way to go. So when you find that person, we'll work it out. But in my head, I'm thinking, you've got two brothers and you don't need me as your best man. I'm just another dude. He goes, no, you're going to be my best man. And, fast forward to 2016 to his wedding, he asked me to be his best man. And I won't say that I was shocked, but I was really surprised because, he does have two brothers.
And we've had one of his brothers on the show before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genuine, just like Drew.
Sure.
So, but tell us about the bachelor party, or if anything happened.
So believe it or not, there wasn't really a bachelor party. We actually got together, and this was per Drew's wishes. He didn't want the whole bachelor party thing. We actually got together and took a road trip to Orange County Choppers.
Oh yeah,
had a I guess a backstage tour of the place, and spoke with some people with the show, and spent a few hours there looking at all the bikes and whatnot. And it was a great time. It was low key, just the way he wanted it. He didn't want a lot of pomp and circumstance. There were probably 5 people there.
Wow.
Including Drew, and my wife tagged along because the girls were going to do something and she wasn't really into that. She wanted to go see motorcycles, so we brought her along. So it really was a good time. So
was
he a huge fan of the show? Because I didn't know that about him.
He was a huge fan of the show, and there were some other events when he was living in New York that he got a chance to hook up with those folks and Paul Senior and those folks. So he was a fan of the show.
There were definitely certain things in like music and television and media that Drew was just like a mega fan of. Like I know for him, getting to go backstage at Lincoln Park is one of the memories that he would constantly tell you was so awesome. And then way later on in life, he got to see like Ice Cube up front. He was like a big Ice Cube fan. So I'm not surprised that instead of a bachelor party, he's like, I'm a fan of the show. I want to meet these guys.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. They invited us up, and we took a road trip up there to upstate New York and had a great time.
What was, during the football years, but even after the marriage, your relationship with them, any stories? Because I knew Drew pretty well, and I knew that of course I lived miles and miles away from him, so it's not like we could hang out all the time. But Drew's stories, after, and he left the agency and so forth. I guess I just kind of want to know what took place after, because really after the agency, you just saw Drew not really lost, but just sort of trying to figure things out. And I want to keep this upbeat, but also this, we need to know people. It may help somebody else down the line. That's just going through tough times to figure out a way to get out of them. Because Drew was always a fighter. I mean, Drew fought everything. And again, as I said, he had his demons. I'm not going to lie. I have my demons too. We actually were fighting our demons at the same time, talking to each other, trying to help each other. So, what did you see and how did you help? How did you help? Because we all helped.
Sure. So Drew was. And I don't get emotional about a lot of things. I get emotional about my family, and I get emotional about Drew. So, his compassion for other people, even his professional life, doing what he did for a living, but coming home and his compassion for people, he wanted to help anyone that needed any kind of help. He would give you the shirt off his back. He would give you whatever he had to make sure that you were okay. And for me, I guess it was about 2008. We were still great friends. He was doing a lot of traveling. He was over in Afghanistan a lot. Wasn't home very often. We lived in the same town at that time. And for me, I was going through a very bad divorce. Very, very bad custody battle. At the same time, my father, who was also my best friend, was dying, and eventually passed away. This was right around 2008.
So it's like all at the same time.
All at the same time. So, it got to the point, where I was actually looking for a place to live, because I needed to separate myself from what was going on at home and that sort of thing. Made the big decision which affected me, was because I felt like I left my kids. I knew that they would be okay, but I just wasn't in the house every day.
I understand. I went through a divorce too. I understand. Yeah.
Sure. That was the main thing for me. And, Drew and I were texting, and it was a late night for me, and he just happened to be up and said, "Hey brother, how you doing?" Sent me a text, and kind of started rattling off the things that were going on. And he said, "Well, look, dude," he goes, "my house is empty." He goes, "I'm not going to be back for months." He goes, "Here's a garage code. Go move into my place. I just need someone to make it look like it's lived in." I thought about it, and I said, "Well, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and we'll talk it out or whatnot." So got back to him the next day, and he goes, "I'm dead serious." He goes, "I want you to take your stuff and go to my house." Yeah. So I packed up what I had, and I went to his house, and I moved in. And even at that point, I had some place to stay, but I was still at what I thought was an all-time low. I didn't know how to rebound. My kids didn't want to come see me because they weren't in their house. They didn't. They knew Drew, but they didn't really know. Why was Daddy moving into his house? Why was this going on?
Hey, John, how old were they at the time?
Let's see. At the time, I had a high schooler. She was probably a freshman in high school. I had a middle schooler and an elementary school.
Okay, yeah, still.
So they were all pretty young. So at that point, when my dad passed away, that was when I just hit rock bottom. You talk about fighting demons. Yeah. There was a lot of drinking going on just to try to kill the pain.
Just never to numb yourself.
All those, all those sort of things. Going to work, doing my day job, just kind of going through the motions of coming home, to a dark house. There's no one there, just me.
Yeah.
And I get daily texts from Drew every single day, telling me how good a person I was, how good a father I was, and that at some point this is all going to blow over, and it was going to make me a better human after that. And he was right. And I attribute him sending me that text and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" to saving my life, because had it not been for that, I don't know. And I can be honest with you guys, I don't know that I'd be here today, just because I was in such a dark place at that point.
Yeah.
And that was his character. He just wanted to help. He just wanted to make sure I was going to be okay. Even though he was thousands of miles away doing what he did best, he wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay.
But that's cool. That's cool. And that's cool that, timing is everything. I do think that timing it's not coincidence. Timing just, It happens. And I'm a man of faith. I'm not a preacher or nothing, but I believe that, those things happen for a reason. And then you have a choice. Like you said, you have a choice. Do I take it as a positive and say, okay, I turn the corner, go, I can fix myself? Or do you still feel sorry for yourself and be like, well, I'm glad it happened, but it's not going to get you. Obviously you're a strong person. You went the way to the right instead of the left. And you said, okay, well, that's great. I do have a positive point in my life I can build on. And
sure,
that's what you did. And doing that, it's not easy, especially at that time, working in Afghanistan myself at the time. It's not easy just to text somebody.
Yeah,
from Afghanistan. I mean, and that was before the advent of the cool phones. So we still had crappy Nokia phones that looked like the only game you could play on it was Tetris, because and so trying to text from those phones was not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at that time when I finally started getting myself together and kind of slapping my face saying, all right, you got this, you're going to be fine. That was right around the same time Drew was starting to leave the agency at that point. That was right around that same time.
Yeah, that's so he was going through his own adjustment. Granted, he was in a good place from what I remember.
Right.
But yeah, that's adjustment. Whenever you leave the agency or you leave a job like that, or you leave the military, or just anything you've done it, you really love your career and you love your job. It doesn't have to be military or paramilitary related. It could be anything, and you step away from it, and you're still at a young. I mean, how old is he? He wasn't even in his 40s yet at that time. He was
he was still in his 30s.
30s, yeah. I mean, that's a hard thing hard pill to swallow. It's like, okay, well, I'm out, and you think it's great, and then you get out, you still got that 30-year-old piss and vinegar, and you're like, okay,
Sure.
what do I do now?
Hope that you guys are enjoying this interview. Remembering our great friend Drew Dwyer. Not gonna lie, there are a few points of this interview I did tear up because just hearing these great stories and us reliving our memories with Drew is awesome to do, and hopefully you guys are learning something about a true hero. I consider Drew a true hero. He was someone who was way more about other people than just himself. Before we continue with this, though, we do have some great sponsors on board who keep us going. And we have a new sponsor this week, the most comfortable jeans on the planet, only at RevTown. Performance athletic brands utilize some pretty amazing materials, fabrics that stretch, breathe, and move with you. Unfortunately, these materials aren't denim until now. When a few Under Armour execs left to blaze their own trail, they started by addressing the biggest shortfall of denim and jeans in general, movement. So they developed a proprietary fabric consisting of Italian denim that's tough as nails, infused with the materials used in football uniforms and yoga pants. By doing so, RevTown created great jeans that are comfortable, functional, and durable. In fact, they're insanely comfortable. RevTown jeans are designed to help you on the move, whether it's from the office to the bar or right back to the couch. No tight thighs, no bum sweats, and absolutely no crotch binding because RevTown works directly with its customers. They can sell their designer quality jeans at a fraction of the price of other fashion brands. So check them out. If you go to their website, they have so many different designs, and it's also like very affordable. So you guys are going to love them. Check them out. And that's at RevTownUSA.com. Men's and women's denim made right. That's RevTownUSA.com. RevTownUSA.com. And you've heard us talk in depth about our friends at Bubs Naturals. And one of the things that I love about their collagen protein in particular, when I talk to friends about protein, and actually was talking to someone yesterday after a hike, he was telling me, the protein he uses. And I was saying, using Bubs, it's unflavored and it's just one ingredient. And he was saying to me, well, is that bad that I take like a vanilla flavored protein? And it's not that it's necessarily bad, but these are all made with artificial flavors when you have all these different flavors in your protein. And if it's something you're drinking every day, it adds up. And if I'm using a supplement, I want to put all good stuff in my body. And that's Bubs, whether it's their collagen protein or their MCT oil or their Fountain of Youth formula.
Yeah, it's true. Put it in your coffee, just mix it in the morning. It does, after getting it into your system. That's what doing natural supplements do. You have to continue to build it and take it. But once you get it down and that's because your system, you can feel the difference in the morning. You can feel when you miss a dose, and especially if you're working out a ton. The MCT oil picks you up. It actually adds a little flavor to the coffee, so I have to put less cream in it. But the protein, making it unflavored, it makes it easy to mix it in anything. Granted, I like to put it in hot stuff because I believe that it does dissolve better when it's in a hot material. But you can mix it with water, you can mix it with juice, anything, and it's not going to mess up the flavor. But man, I can see the difference since I started taking Bubs just in my body and my energy levels. And the Fountain of Youth, I'm telling you, I mean, if you could have the video, you could check out the hair. I'm getting like young man Poncherella from Chip's hair back in the day, man. For all you youngsters, you can Google Poncherella from Chip's, but Eric Estrada hair. But it's tremendous. But the biggest thing is less hurting in my joints. I am getting stronger. I'm back to working out 6 days a week. I only need to take 1 day off. I can run every day where, man, in 2017, I was having issues. It was painful to run every day because of joints and getting older. I'm 50 now. And Bubs, guys, I swear by that stuff. It's tremendous. You got to try it. And also, what they stand for, in the memory of Glenn Doherty, and not
just back. Yeah, and not just keeping that name on there, but 10% goes to the Glenn Memorial Foundation. Glenn Memorial. I'm forgetting the name of the foundation. Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation.
Just think of this when you have to think of it. Think GDMF, Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which Glenn was a teammate of mine who died in Libya on 9/12/2012. former Navy SEAL. The product is the best thing out there. And if you have IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, anything, celiac, even something
or just
that,
if anything inflames your gut.
in your gut, I have ulcerative colitis. I actually had severe ulcerative colitis. This is why I was medically discharged from the military early, and it's why I went into contracting. But I have had no issues, and in fact, my gut has improved. That, along with NEDs, those together, my gut, I don't have any issues. The last checkup I had, there was no indication of ulcerative colitis except some old scarring from back in the past. You're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Why are you not? And you're looking in better shape. Well, I said, well, I'm working out all the time, but I'm also taking these supplements and they're working, and Bubs is part of that. So if you have IBD, guys, inflammatory bowel disease, and you want to start working out, but you can't find anything that doesn't upset your gut or cause inflammation within your gut, Bubs won't. At least it hasn't for me. And I had severe ulcerative colitis for many, many years.
Yeah. I've also been taking the apple cider vinegar gummies every day now.
They're awesome.
I love them. They also taste great.
Yep.
So yeah, they did a great job with those. So check any of that out at bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline and you're going to get 20% off. A ton of our audience has been loving them. I'm getting so much great feedback on Instagram, and people are getting the intro videos when they become a customer from Sean and from other people who they have using their products, including, like, I've seen Herb Dean, everybody knows from UFC, one of the great reps there. I know he's not with the UFC currently, but I know him from the UFC. Bubs just has some great people backing their stuff. So bubsnaturals.com, promo code Battleline, and now back to John Jackson.
I'm sure you guys know this and know this about Drew, but one of the things that I felt about Drew the most was that Drew was always that guy he was looking for love. He wanted someone that was going to love him as much as he wanted to be loved. And I think at that point, and that may or may not contributed to some of the things that happened with his exit with the agency. Yeah. However, he was looking forward to when he left there to getting on with his life. And, I think at that point he kind of was trying to figure out what he's going to do. And then he went back into contracting for a while, which I kind of think that that quenched his thirst for a while. But I feel like he still had a bad taste in his mouth after leaving the agency. And then when he separated from that life and then started doing some security stuff in New York City, I think that at that point he kind of finally found his niche. He was like happy. My wife and I had gone up to the city and seen him and his girlfriend at the time, which he ended up marrying, going up to the city and getting some behind the scenes look at New York City and some of the office buildings that he had access to. And, we're going to come up here on the rooftop and ring in the new year here. We unfortunately never got a chance to do that, but I think that after the agency, he kind of struggled a little bit on where he wanted to go with his life, what he wanted to do. And I know, Ian, you mentioned, in your last podcast about him finding the fire department and stuff like that. He was, that just goes to show that's just who he was. He wanted to help people.
Yeah, it's interesting because the time that you were in a different place, basically that's right when I met him. I met him right at that time, and that was right after the wedding. I met him, I think, probably right after the wedding in Italy that you were just talking about. And yeah, he was just awesome, man. And I still have cards that he would write to me. He wrote me a card for like my birthday and for, I think, like around Christmas time. And he always wrote something really heartfelt in there. I remember one was like, he's like, you're one of the few New Yorkers I actually like. So I'm grateful we get to work together. Like I remember he wrote that in one card. I just have so many great memories with him at that time. You know what I'm wondering, just like on another level with this, but when you were at the wedding in Italy, was there any type of resentment at all that you were like, crap, I got to get on a plane all the way to Italy just to like watch you get married? I've never been to Italy, but I feel like if I wanted to go, I want to like see it, spend time with my family, because it's expensive to go to a destination wedding like that.
Yeah, it was, that's one of the things I said in my best man speech, that I wouldn't have made that trip for anybody but him. Because I'm not a big, I don't like to fly a lot. I do fly a lot when my wife wants to go on vacation, but I'm really not an airplane guy. So going from the States over to Italy, that was a big hurdle for me. So, getting there and just, he kind of gave me the lowdown of this is what you're going to do when you get there, spend some time here, work your way down. It was all overwhelming for me, all the information that he was giving me to go down to where they got married in Sorrento. So it was definitely a good time. But I did tell him, I was like, I wouldn't make this trip across the water for anybody but you. And I'm not sure I'm going to go back. I may go back, but it was only because of him that I was there. So
I got invited to the wedding, and that was when it was going crazy. I was so damn busy. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. Ian, Drew, and guys, I know I'm being honest with it. I think that was when the movie. When did he get? It was 2014 that he got married. 2015.
He got married 2016.
2016, yeah, it was when the movie premiere came out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember that. But that reminded me of a funny story because Drew would come like to these events when that was going on. There was this thing called SHOT Show, and then the NRA, and those events at that time, especially for me, were insane. I was not prepared for it. Insane. And people would come. They want you to be a brand ambassador for them. I tell you what, people, hey, try this. And Drew was there with Ian at the time, and I think this was the first time. I knew you from Wilcow, but I didn't really know Ian. I just knew him from the Wilcow show and running around. And this person handed me a thing of chapstick, and he goes, "Hey, try this chap." So I grab it, and I'm about ready to put it on. And Drew's like, "Hey, dude, stop! You don't know what they could have spiked that with roofies or shrooms or something. So put that on your lips, man." He said, "What are you doing?" And I had to take a step back. I'm like, gosh, he's right. I gave him a high five. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. And I just handed it to him, and I think he threw it away. But it's like, me out of my skull, I'll get pulled 8 million different directions, and he's still thinking about my well-being with some chapstick, which is like,
because he was the guy, I think, who always, cared about the situational awareness stuff, because in his job where we were, which was Hurricane, he was doing the stuff with testing out gear, and he loved all that. He loved testing out different firearms gear and all of that. So he was big on situational awareness for sure.
And I had no situational awareness at all at that time. I was trying to figure it. It was unbelievable. Yeah, go ahead, because I just reminded me of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that instant, but it was so funny because we laughed about it after. I'm like, it was, and he gave me shit. He's like, "Yeah, nice job, Tano. You're still a security professional." Like, dude, I am not in what's going on anymore.
Yeah, we had a trip to Mexico, a vacation planned in Mexico, and it was right around the same time. There was a lot of bad things going on down in Mexico, and weren't really sure if the Americans should be traveling there or not. But went ahead and pulled the trigger and got this trip. So the first person I contacted was Drew, and I was like, "Look, man, what do I need to look out for? What am I watching for?" And he gave me a whole list of things to look out for. So I'm on the plane and I'm reading up on it, and we're finally getting in a little van that was supposed to be a taxi, but it was a little far-fetched to be a taxi. And I'm reading over this thing, and I'm like, okay, that's what I'm looking out for. That's what I'm looking out for. He said, as long as you're confident, and as long as you know what you look like you're doing, then you'll be fine. I was like, I don't know if that helps me out or not, buddy, but I'm a big guy, so I guess I can make him think I can handle myself. So
figure it out. And that's the truth. That really is the truth. As long as, you don't go overboard. Where we had guys who would come down range and be overboard, just like, no, don't look like with the air lats and the, don't do that. Just act like you know what you're doing. So somebody asks you a question, look them in the eyes. Oh yeah, sure. The coffee, it's over there. But that, and that's good training. That's good that I'm no shock that he knew that, because and that's why we got along on the GRS side of the house, because he wasn't the tough guy. And guys, if we had video, you could see me. I'm bowing up doing my air lats, O'Doyle rules, sort of. Look, but Drew was one of the guys that wasn't like that. And especially later, 2009, we had more guys coming in, because that's when the sleeves tats were starting to get cool. And that's when the male hormone therapy was starting to be free. It was starting to be legalized. And it was. So it was cool having a guy like that, because it was just another normal guy that, if you needed to turn that fucking switch on,
right?
Oh yeah, we're slaying some sons of bitches out there. But if we didn't, it was goofing off. It was, and he also got the pat on the butt, good game, pat on the butt, which a lot of guys didn't. It's football. Hey, good game. But we do it as a joke. Hey, good game.
Right.
Pat you on the ass. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So the I know people get the locker room humor. He got that because literally locker room humor that you get when you play football and you don't get offended by stupid little jokes. So that's amazing to hear. Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear. Does that bring back memories?
Yeah, man. So one of the coolest things that I didn't find this out until after he had passed. So my daughter, who is 29 now, she is spent 4.5 years in the Marine Corps. So she was stationed in Okinawa, and again, I didn't find this out until afterwards. But Drew would send her. He would send her text messages. He would send her messages, say, "Hey, Marine, how you doing?" He was her uncle, so he wanted to check in on her, make sure she was doing okay. So he would contact her all the time just to make sure she was doing okay. And I had her early in life. I raised her by myself. I didn't know how to raise a girl, so I raised her like a boy. So I always called her G.I. Jane, and she hated that. She hates it to this day. But she's a badass, and she could take care of herself, but he would always get in touch with her and always see how she was doing, just to make sure that my kid was okay over in Okinawa doing her thing in the Marine Corps. He always kept in touch with her. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And how did she do? She got 4 years, and did she get out? What? Yeah, tell us a little bit. Can you, if you don't mind? I'm interested.
Yes. Sure. So she actually she left for boot camp like 2 weeks after her high school graduation. She was gung ho. She was ready to go. She didn't want to go to college. She said she wanted a challenge, and I said, "Well, you're picking the Marine Corps. That's a pretty good challenge to go into." So she went in the Corps and went to 29 Palms for a short stint, and then flew out to Okinawa and was there for the rest of her time. She was probably there for 3 years or so. And she enjoyed it over there. She liked being there. My son-in-law, her husband, spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. Okay. So they both separated with the Marines. And after their time was up and came back to Virginia, started raising their family. So, but he always kept in contact with her and was a big part of her life.
That's awesome. That is. You know what I was going to tell you? Chris just said it earlier, but when you said about testosterone replacement therapy and full sleeve tattoos, it is true that Drew was the polar opposite of that, because Drew might be one of the only military members I know who did not have one tattoo.
Didn't have one tattoo. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, right.
And I remember at one point he started talking with me about getting a tattoo because I have like a Japanese koi fish on my leg, and he's like, "That's fucking awesome." And he's like, "If I get a tattoo, I don't want to do like the stereotypical Marine Corps thing." He's like, "I want to do a dragon or something cool like that." And I remember him telling Fran, his wife, about it, and Fran was like, "Drew, you're like 40. Like, what is this, like the midlife crisis thing?"
Yeah, that's funny. He had no tattoos. He was a blank canvas. He was a work in progress, I like to say. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
The last time I saw Drew, but this is how it was whenever I came to New York City. And sometimes I would stay at some nice places. People would put me up at what's one of the nice hotels, like the iconic one, the one you see in Home Alone. I stayed at.
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Is that the Waldorf Astoria?
The Waldorf Astoria. There
you go. Yeah.
Here's Drew. Okay, and you know what Drew has to wear every day? Shorts that are cut off with his flip flops. And a ripped T-shirt or a T-shirt that with the neck just stretched. It's like, can you go buy a new T-shirt? The neck. Of course, I'm saying like, hey man, every time I come to the city, I had some time. I'd say we'd meet and we'd have dinner. We'd go and have a drink, or we'd come and hang out. And I'm like, hey man, I'm in. And he said, yeah, I'll be there in a bit. I'll jump on the subway. I'll jump on the train and I'll be there. And of course, he walks into the Waldorf Astoria, flip flops, ripped camo shorts that are cut, and then the sleeve. I'm looking. I'm like, dude, couldn't you at least put on a clean T-shirt or something, man? I mean, I know I'm not dressed up either, but at least my shirt. And he would just laugh and smile, like, and he goes, I don't give a shit. I'm like, that's cool, but we're not staying here. Let's go out. Let's go out to the meatpacking district or get the hell out of here where we fit in, because this I said, you're scaring the straights, man. We need to get the hell out of here. They think you're going to rob the place.
He's where I got my love for cargo shorts from. My wife absolutely hates my cargo shorts, but I'm like, look, you got to be prepared. And she's like, well, what are you going to be prepared for? I go, I got to hold your keys. I got to hold your phone. I got to hold your makeup.
I'm heading out, and all I'm taking with me is my phone, wallet, keys. Yeah, phone, wallet, keys.
That's why I wear cargo shorts. Drew always wore those cargo shorts, so he got me hooked on that back in the day.
That's all. I remember that every time I came to the city. Every time, I wouldn't even bother telling him, "Hey, wear something. Can you wear something a little nicer? I mean, can you put some shorts on that aren't cut, that you didn't cut with a scissor and didn't have?"
Going to the zoo, I need my phone, wallet, keys. If I'm getting a face tattoo, I need my phone, wallet, keys. If I'm going out to a wedding.
No, I was like, screw it. He's coming in. We'll go. I don't give a shit. He don't give a shit. Let's go. But it was fun because I could always razz him about it a little bit, because he'd walk in I mean, I knew he was scaring the living shit. Like, everybody's looking at him going, does this guy belong in here, man? Like, you judgmental sons of bitches. He's got more money than you guys can. Anyway,
it's funny. We had a good time at the wedding. You know, we had bought the suits for the groomsmen a while ago, right? And I said, man, I gotta check this suit out to make sure I can still fit in it, because we had bought it so many months before the wedding, and luckily I was able to squeeze in it and everything worked fine. So we get to Italy, and one of the groomsmen shows up, and so we're all in my suite getting dressed, and his suit was a shade darker than everyone else's. So we're all getting dressed, and Drew looks at him and he goes, man, that's not gonna go over well. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, Fran's gonna know that your suit is not like our suits as soon as she sees you. And I was like, oh, this isn't gonna end well. So Drew goes, don't worry about it. He goes, I'll handle it. So we go out and get to the wedding, and we're doing our thing. So I could see Fran kind of looking at the groomsman whose suit was a little different shade. And afterwards, and pictures were taken, she goes, where's your suit? And he goes, what are you talking about? This is my suit. And you could tell that she was just starting to get more and more angry about it. She goes, what happened to your suit? And we look around for Drew, because he was supposed to handle everything. He took off. He didn't want any parts of that situation. He took off, and we found him a couple minutes later. He was like, you guys were on your own. I was like, thanks a lot, bud.
That's a great story to end it with, Ben. You know, because we are unfortunately like limited on time. I could go another hour on this, but that is a great way to end it, man. Usually when we have guests on, it's like, where can we find your book? Where can we find your social media? Do you have anything at all that you're promoting?
And like I said, with John, you know, if you could, your football schedule coming up. If anybody, and you guys are state champions, if there's any place that football is still football and doesn't get the money and the politics and all that, it's high school football, and especially Virginia, huge. Sure. That's like people don't realize football is huge up in Northern Virginia and Virginia area, like it is in Texas. I don't think people realize how big it is up on the East Coast. So, what's your schedule like? When do you guys start? And are you guys are they what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out. My mind, for this year, are they prospecting you guys prospective going to be state champions this year? Are they thinking that you're going to?
So the season we just wrapped up, and believe it or not, was the first weekend in May. That was our COVID season. That's when we actually won the state championship.
Holy crap! Wow.
Yeah. So we finished up late. So now we've got the boys back in the weight room, and we'll start the first week of August with regular season practice.
Back to fall football
for the upcoming fall. Yeah. So, and just to give you a little background on our team, we've actually been to the state championship 10 times in the last.
Wow.
Since I think the school opened in 2000. So we've been there 10 times, and we've won states twice. So they've had some heartbreaks over the years with not finishing the deal, but we actually finished last year being undefeated, which was great. And I actually am coaching for the high school coach that I had when I was playing high school football.
Wow, that's nice.
And, so it's a great turn of events. And I'll tell you a real quick story before we go. We're at the state game, and I've got like a couple of I'm a real superstitious guy, so I've got a couple things in my pocket. I found a penny on heads on our football field, so I shoved that in there. I had a 4-leaf clover that one of my buddies got me. I stuck that in the other pocket. I had cargo shorts on because it was about 100 degrees outside, and then I had a rock that I had from Drew's memorial service with his football number on it. And the God's honest truth, we were on defense, and I pulled that thing out of my pocket, and I'd start rubbing it, and I'd start talking to Drew. Everyone has a mask on, so I'm sure that my football players thought that I was crazy talking to myself because I didn't have headphones on. So every time I was talking to Drew and rubbing that thing, a big play would happen. And, long story short, we tied the game up. We were 2 seconds left in the fourth quarter. We had a sophomore kicker get up.
Wow.
This kid could kick 50-yarders in practice. We were going to kick it at field goal to end the game. 35 yards out, he pushes it wide left.
Oh, wow.
Overtime.
Oh, wow.
They actually get first dibs on the ball. They kick a field goal. At that point, I'm thinking, we got this. We were backed up 3rd and 16. Our quarterback, who just committed to Clemson, was running across the field. Turns and throws back across his shoulder. Our wide receiver does an Odell Beckham in the back of the end zone and has this incredible one-handed catch and won the game. And I started crying like a baby because I knew that Drew was there with us. Drew was a high school state champion football player when he lived back in Wisconsin. So it was just the icing on the cake. And my wife was so happy for us. And I just had I just had to tell that story with him being with me while I was there and doing great things. So
that's an even better way to end up. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great, great story. I know Ian will say the same thing I'm going to say, but thanks for coming on, brother. And I'll keep an eye out for watching and keeping high school rankings. Every once in a while, I'll see it on a couple. USA Today still puts those on there every once in a while. So brother. Good luck to you this year, Ian. What you got, man?
Thank you, guys.
No, that's it. I'm glad we were able to get you on. I know we went shorter than usual, and we could have gone longer, but it happens. But these stories are just important. This is basically part 2 of remembering Drew Dwyer, having his brother on and having you on. And honestly, I feel like if we don't have these type of stories on the podcast, no one would ever know them. And I want people to know them.
Sure. And I appreciate you guys having me on. And, I really appreciate you guys keeping Drew's memory alive. It really means so much to a lot of people. And I know it means a lot to you guys. So I appreciate you.
Thanks, John. Take care, bro.
John.
Good luck this season, man. Good luck, man.
Great. Appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoperanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.